Ladies and gentlemen.
Hi, and welcome to a series of interviews with artists and companies who will be appearing at LiF 2024. These conversations are about their experiences, influences, recommendations, and we hope capture insight into folk about their work and their passion for improv. A big thank you to Kate McCabe from Murder Inc. They will be performing at LiF with Murder Inc., the improvised murder mystery, and their show starts at 8:30 p.m. on Friday the 19th of April at the Unity Theatre. Tickets are £10 and £6 for those who are Creative Pool members and can be purchased online at www.unitytheatre.co.uk. You can follow Murder Inc. on Instagram at Murder Inc. Comedy. You can check out their show and the rest of the festival lineup at www.liverpoolimprovfestival.com. You can follow the festival on our various social media channels, which are on the website. We hope that you enjoy. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, hello and welcome, Kate. Lovely to see you. How are you doing?
I am very well, thank you. I was out a little bit late last night as over in Leeds there was an improv showcase for students. So I stayed out a bit and had a cheeky pint with them.
Very
Uh,
good.
yeah.
So
So,
is
but
that
I mean, I'm up. I'm
you're
well.
you're up and well, and we shall both raise a large coffee. So was that with Silky or something else that you're doing?
That's right. That was with Laugh at Leeds, which is the comedy school that Silky started over there. We have a stand-up track over there, which he teaches, and then we have an improv track that then blossomed into two improv workshops that always go on simultaneously. So we always have a basics of improv to welcome new interested people into the fold, but then we have an always changing second track that runs. So we offer something called Continuers, which is like a jumble of more advanced workshops. And then we have two different long form courses. One is a herald, and then the other one is like lots of other long form formats. And then we also offer a musical one, which my colleague Jade takes completely by herself. Because otherwise, Jade and I split between the basics and whatever the second course is.
Got you.
Jade is the musical genius out of my partnership. So I leave her to teach the musical students.
Yeah, I have no. I can just about hold a tune. I was once taught how to play a tuba in a show, but they had to write it out. The notation was because I'm a big silent movie fan, so they wrote and that's how my brain works. So they had like Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, Harold Lloyd, Laurel and Hardy, and because it's obviously, and so they printed out all these things, so I knew what Laurel and Hardy was, so then I could follow it.
Yeah.
So
Oh, nice.
I
Do
still have
do
that
do do
notation, and
do
it's
do
I
do.
framed it and put it on my wall because I thought, oh, that's really sweet. Because he was kind of going, oh, I want an A here and a thing, and I'm kind of going, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but I can do Laurel and Hardy.
I can do Laurel and Hardy, and it was a
Yeah.
way. And from that point, I was like, oh, okay. So when I teach, I try to obviously people work differently, so I try and kind of go, okay, how do you remember stuff, or how do you access stuff, and kind of it was a good lesson for me in terms of kind of going, okay, because I'm a visual thinker, so
Yeah.
helpful to me. So rather than being demoed at do it like this, I'm like kind of he went, oh, okay, I'll work it out for you.
Ah, that's
Brilliant.
good. I'm glad they found that.
Yeah, and I think in lots of ways, kind of teaching workshop uh, actually is a really good way of becoming a much better performer.
Yeah, oftentimes you can reflect on the things that you want to be. You can tell people to be the improviser that you would like to be. That's quite useful.
Yeah, I like what I learn all the time from people, and I think I'm working with a group who aren't really performers at all. They're all post 60, um, but what they have is so we're doing a show with them about because one of the things I had a heart attack last year, two in fact.
Oh my, oh wow.
So I started to think about my own mortality, legacy, and all that sort of stuff, which I think you do.
Yeah.
And it's some conversation that came up out of workshops and things. And so I said, look, I've got this idea. It was partly inspired by Owen Scriven's work that he did last year at the festival called Living, Dying, Dead with Rhiannon. And I was kind of going, okay, I was curious to sort of work out, well, what would people say about you when you pass? So I started looking, and there's a whole thing around living funerals and things like that, which I don't know if you're familiar with. So people who have terminal illnesses or are very old will stage their funeral in advance of them passing. So people actually get to say what they want to say to that person before they pass,
Right.
which is a really beautiful thing.
It's
So I was kind
beautiful.
of took that idea, melded it with this, and kind of went, oh, okay. An obituary is just essentially a kind of redacted version of someone's life history into 7, 8 lines. That's the
Wow.
starting point. So we start with that with the group. We got chatting, and they kind of go, "I'd be really interesting to kind of." I've been to some great funeral wakes. Uh, was Diane? She's 74, and she used to hang out with loads of bands in the 60s and stuff like that. She's got loads of great stories. And she's going, oh yeah, the best thing about the funeral is actually the bit after where you reflect and talk really
Hmm.
honestly. So essentially, that's what we're doing. We're doing a sort of character study based on someone's obituary that
Wow,
they
that's a great
told you.
idea.
And then we kind of found a really beautiful ending because we went. I've always wanted to make an improv show where you can drink and eat sandwiches on stage. So that's what we're doing.
Oh, I would, yeah, come for the content, but also the pork pies.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely. So, slightly curled sandwiches and things like that.
Nice.
But yeah, so I learned a huge amount in terms of just like not speaking, just playing the moment with silence from
Yeah,
that group. And
that's
I'm
amazing.
trying to incorporate that more and more and more into my work, which is, the subtext, which is
Yeah.
actually people really uh, read that really well.
Hmm.
Um, so take me all the way back, Kate, what was your first experience of live improv rather than kind of everyone's go-to, which is whose line? What was your first experience of and where and what was your memory of that?
So I was first exposed to improv at university. We were able to select some random modules, and I took a module that was improv because I was doing an acting course to kind of legitimize a pathway to comedy. I initially was really focused on stand up, but I was learning acting skills along the way. I always thought the best comedians were ones who had some sort of understanding of theatricality and of acting skills. So I took this improv module and really enjoyed it. And then I graduated uni and I went into bar work as you do. And into the bar came some friends of friends who were looking for additional people to be in an all-girl improv troupe. And as part of that troupe, I was dragged along to go and see some inspiring shows. And my first real breathtaking moment of watching improv was in New York City, watching in the Hell's Kitchen area a troupe called Burn Manhattan.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah.
I know who you're talking about.
And there's some of them are still around doing improv in the guise of Centralia and stuff.
Yeah. So
But all of
I
that,
know Todd really well and John.
oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Well, John, see, John Teese was somebody that my group hired to be our private improv coach.
Yeah. Sadly, he's passed, but John was a major inspiration to me.
He was my first real understanding of long form, because in the module at uni I'd learned a bit of short form. We learned kind of like the playfulness of it and that aspect. But watching Burn Manhattan create something from just movement at the top of a show um was so inspiring and so cool, and it was so funny. Like I kind of need to explain to people, like if I'm teaching like a Herald workshop, I'm going to be like, look, I need you to be comfortable being artsy fartsy and weird and like experimental theater, because then you're going to get into the stuff that you're here for. A bit like it's going to come, but like just like know that like you can do this sort of odd, beautiful, weird, uh, artistic um discomforting kind of opening to a show, and it winds up being really, really truthful and really, really funny and so unique. I'd go back and see them every time. But then having the private tuition from John Teese was amazing. And it was a troupe. So then I was in this troupe, for about like it lasted about 5 years. It self imploded eventually, but that was my first foray. That was my first real exposure to like a theatrical improv show.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you kind of, because obviously Shira Piven um, was their director,
Yes.
and obviously her parents were part of the original Compass players. So you kind of almost like three steps away from Viola Spolin, who is who
Yeah.
is still the most amazing theatre practitioner. If anyone ever says what practitioner, and I just go Viola Spolin, no doubt.
What a brain on her, huh? What a brain.
Yeah, I kind of go. I just kind of go. I can't believe that something so simple as observing play and then how to transform that. I teach applied practice, theatre practice, and I always kind of go, well, do you know where improv arrived from? It was essentially a practice. Kind of, it was for children who came to Chicago for post depression. They were not necessarily literate, so you have to. There's the problem. How do you overcome that problem to be able to
Yeah.
get people to come and join in? And you kind of go, this whole thing kind of evolved from that, and I
Yeah.
think that's often overlooked.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, I kind of really admire the American system in terms of the opportunity to try loads of different stuff, whereas here you kind of 18, right? What do you want to do for the rest of your life? You're going to do this? Oh, okay. I really like that. I really
Yeah,
like
our university system is a bit different because you can take a major and a minor,
Yeah.
and then most universities force you to take studies in like other regard. Like I had to take some humanities classes and some science classes as part of my theater degree.
Yeah.
It's almost kind of like just in case.
I also think it makes you think about the world in a different way. You're more
Yeah,
rounded. If you've got such a narrow focus at such a young age, I kind of go, okay, you're passionate about it. That's great. But what else? You know,
yeah.
can I, in my uni, we did used to have an option that you had to take one module in your first year. And I did popular music,
Oh, that's
where I
cool.
learned, and I learned so much, and I was so invested in it. And then I didn't get the option to do that ever again. It was always like
Yeah.
theatre. You're going to be doing this.
Yeah.
I kind of get there's it's a longer program, 4 years and all that. Yeah, but I do think there's some. I think in the first year, certainly when you do your degree, I think you should be taking half of your module should be in other areas of just because you're making a huge decision. It might be that you might kind of go, actually, I want to go do that,
Yeah.
as opposed to
Yeah.
I am doing.
Or like even like that little exposure to this thing is really going to change my practice over here.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
think I think they want to, kind of the influence takes you somewhere else. Wow, that's amazing. So yeah, so Todd and John, we went over to the LA, they came over to us, and we created a show that was based off The Beast, um, which was called Hoof, and we toured that in the UK from 2004 to 2014. So we were black suits, we did do the swarm, we did do all of that. And in fact, I will bring for you because I don't think you can get it. I don't think it's online. I have a VHS of a Burn Manhattan set.
Oh, I would love to see that.
So I'm trying to remember it's in a box somewhere. I will see
I will
if I can.
buy a VCR on eBay to watch this. That's
Well,
no joke.
I'll try and work out because I'm still good friends with Todd. I'll see because I teach impro at uni for my students, and every year he does. I always ask, could you just do a little message for them?
Oh,
And
that's so
every year
great.
he does a little. He's saying, "So guys, you're sort of now become part of the improv family." Da, 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 and he's so amazing. Yeah,
That's a really good get.
yeah, yeah. no one really knows who he is until I explain that, or I kind of go, oh well, he was Dracula in Buffy, and they all go, oh my god, oh my god. Well, he was my favorite scene he was ever in was in Malcolm in the Middle, where they're playing, they end up playing, uh, what's that game where you play on a ship where you push things with a broom? It's a
Oh, shuffleboard.
shuffleboard, but they play it with children. They're children. They're
Uh,
sliding children down, and Todd's in that, and that's one of my favorite scenes in sorry, Malcolm from the Middle.
nice.
I love that show. It was very funny. Okay, so completely going lateral, but wow, that's
What a
amazing.
cool connection that we were
Yeah,
both connected to that troop because they were just influential, important, cool.
yeah, yeah. Oh, phenomenal, phenomenal, phenomenal. Yeah, I watched John and Todd do a two prov together, and I was just like, oh my God, I could never do do what they did, you know.
Confident, cool, smart, playful, interesting, creative, just everything you want improv to be.
And again, the lesson I learned from those older folks in the workshop was there was so much space, there was so much silence, but it was what was filled in the silence built this tension, and it was just like,
Yeah.
oh, this is amazing. It was like watching a Pinter play because
Yeah.
it was so there was so much tension in the space, and they had a full live band, the cello, and they just
Yeah.
underscore and stuff like that. I was going, oh my God, this is stunning. And I don't have a recording of that, and I wish I did. But
Improv.
it lingers in the memory, which is partly why the festival we like to document stuff, because the improv community is not very good at kind of recording stuff and then
No, we're trying to get a bit better at it. My other colleague over in comedy sports, Braun, has been aware of this for ages.
yeah,
She's tried to write about how it's like how difficult it is to capture improv, and sort of like the energy in the room. Uh, but she at least records like 99% of comedy sports shows. So, over at Murder Inc., we're getting better at like recording all the shows, if only even in a really sort of cutthroat way to clip them up and be able to advertise the show
yeah,
to get people in. Like, here's a bit of what it looks like.
yeah, yeah. But I think there's a big passage of time where videotape or things like that where people didn't, there's a load of teams.
Yeah, 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 yeah. What
Oh,
about, early doors SCTV or Second City, early doors groundlings, this, that, maybe the occasional recording, but not a treasure trove.
yeah. And so I think one of the key things like this interview is like kind of going, what does Kate McCabe, what is her experience? What is this, And I think it's important that we somehow capture that in some way, shape, or form for the future.
Yeah.
And probably, you'll get some researcher or something, 20 years down the line going, oh, I really want to, oh, look, there's Murder Inc. Okay. And I can watch their show and, da 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 da, and you don't know.
Yeah,
But
you don't.
if you never capture it, you lose it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Gone in the wind.
Yeah, exactly. So it's quite, and it does feel like an ephemeral art form. It's like here and gone, and you kind of get, and that's part of its beauty. But part of that is to kind of go. Actually, sometimes you just got to just capture it a little bit and see where it takes us.
Absolutely.
Um, so plenty of shows. You come to the UK. Kind of, how did you land in the north? If you don't mind me asking.
No, I don't mind. I don't mind. So I left America with my then partner, now wife. She's called Carrie, and she's from Scotland. And at that point, we were living together in America, and there wasn't a pathway for me to sponsor her in the States, but there was a pathway for me to get sponsored by her in the UK. So I came over on a partner visa, one that I had to renew every few years. Until then, I had to take a life in Britain test, and I could live here permanently. But the reason we chose Manchester, because I had suggested, and I'd visited Scotland with her, and I said, I loved Edinburgh, I love Glasgow. Should we settle there? And she said, well, I went to uni in Glasgow, and I went to my career was in Edinburgh. Why don't we go to a city that neither of us have any experience in? And London seemed like, even though we were living in New York City, London seemed like a big jump in that, like, we might be putting ourselves on the back foot. Why don't we move somewhere that will go a little further with our money? So we'd heard good things about Manchester. We heard it was kind of like the new up and coming second city. Sorry, Birmingham. Uh, and we landed in Manchester in 2005,
Wow.
2005. Yeah. And let me tell you, Manchester was a very different city then. I did not like it. I thought we moved straight to town because
Yeah.
we lived in a very urban part of New York. We lived in Brooklyn, but Brooklyn is still really urban. Um, and we were like, well, where's the nightlife outside of kind of music culture, like club and music? Where's the cafe culture? Where's the little alt comedy shows? Where's this? Where's that? We didn't really appreciate that it was much more the suburban sprawl of Manchester. People went home to the suburbs and to their local villages or suburbs or whatever and kind of spent time there if they weren't staying for a drink after work or whatever. Anyway, long story short, 10 years after moving there, the city's a completely different place. I mean, partially because the BBC moved up here and people started catering to people that had like that kind of London nightlife thirst. Um, but yeah, I feel by the grace of God, it's like, well, I'm glad I wound up in Manchester. It wound up being quite a bountiful place for comedy and now for improv, and there's poetry nights now, and I tell you what else we have now, good pizza. Didn't have that when I first moved over here. It was like those little takeaways where you could get a pizza with tuna and corn, and I was like, what is this? So, but now, even in my suburb, because I used to live in city center, but I live in the suburbs now, even my suburb has a really good pizza shop. So anyway, that's how I got here. Uh, I got into improv over here. I didn't do comedy for the first few years I moved over here, partially because I didn't know what I was doing. A lot of my comedy I felt wouldn't translate because it was very referential to American things and more specifically New York things. So I had a few years where I was a bit driftless. Um, is that the right word? I was drifting. I was shiftless and I drifted. Um, but just like Tokyo Drift. Um, and I found comedy sports. I just Googled improv Manchester because I was like, let's get back into comedy. Let's get your head going again. Comedy Sports Manchester was the game in town, pun intended. And I started at the basics there. I'm new in town, as John Mulaney would say. So I went on to their basics course, and then just came back and I did their intermediates, like 2 or 3 times on the trot because I was like, I'm just enjoying the process and
Yeah.
let's keep going. And then I got asked to be in the troupe right as I was about to take a little 6-month holiday away from improv workshops, which was fortuitous. I thought, oh, well, great, a performance opportunity. And so I joined up with Comedy Sports as my first kind of professional improv work over here. And I think that was probably like 13 years ago, 12, 13 years ago.
So I saw Bron and Comedy Sports very early doors at Z Arts, and they did oh my gosh, what was it? It must have been 2002, 2003, something like
Oh,
that.
that'll be before my time then, yeah.
Yeah, so it was very early doors, and we were over there to do a series of workshops for international youth theatres, and they brought loads of different artists to come in, and the young people got to try different activities, and then everyone did like a 15-20 minute set of whatever they were doing. And ours
Cool.
wasn't necessarily, we were sort of doing acrobatics and various
Oh,
other,
that's cool.
but not improvised acrobat. We were that was it was a show that we were doing about two ex vaudeville performers who were brothers who ran a sandwich shop. So
Okay.
as you can imagine, basically, the whole circus thing was juggling with sandwiches and bays, all that. So we incorporate it into the world of that cafe. But yeah, I saw them. I was like, oh my God. And then last year, whoosh, bang, opportunity to bring you guys over to the first LiF, which was amazing. And I got to see you perform as the referee, which is, I'd imagine, is quite hectic what's going on in your brain. So how do you handle all of, obviously you're quite experienced and done all of that. So, but do you play as a team player, like red or blue, or is that your role that you
So, I enjoy playing on the team, the red and the blue, because I love the games. I love short form just as much as I love long form. And I always talk about comedy sports as like a long form piece that is comprised of short form games,
Yeah,
because the conceit of, like red versus blue with a referee is a lovely bit of long form, really. Art imitating life of the sports match. Um, and I love having a place on one of the teams. The role of the referee is integral, and I feel honored every time that I am cast as the referee. It requires a little bit more training just because you need to have a good knowledge of the games Bible, so that you can call the games. You also need to have a good eye for theatricality. You know, when do you need to make up a reason to knock somebody out of the game? Is this going on too long because the players aren't considering the theatricality of the show? Do I need to make up a reason that that word that rhymed didn't rhyme? You know, so the skills of the improv, timekeeping, making sure things are running to time. You feel like the chef, the head chef, I suppose, back in the
yeah,
kitchen. Um, and it can be great fun. You also get to have a laugh with the audience, but it is managerial in a way that the players don't have to worry about. And
yeah,
so I feel like when I get to play on a team, the blue or the red team, it's completely unbridled fun. And when I play as the ref, it's a little bit more the mom's gonna have fun.
yeah, yeah,
I'm the mom of the match. Got to keep an eye on things, keep it straight, but I try to sneak some fun in there as well. And that's how it should be. Like the ref should be a dynamic character and part of the show, but you do have the responsibility of the compare role as
yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah. No, I was. That's what I remembered from last year wasn't necessarily the games. It was you kind of how you managed all of that, and I was going, oh my God, this is so skilled, and it was so effortless.
That's really
I'm
kind of
sure.
you to say.
I'm sure it's a bit like a swan. It's kind of gliding on top, but paddling furiously under the
Yeah, that's a great
water.
metaphor.
So yeah, no, I kind of really, and that's what I kind of really admired and watched. I was kind of, and I loved the live music and the kind of all of that sort of stuff. And I was just like, this is so slick. It was so cool.
Yeah, I think going to, we had a conversation off camera before we started recording, and about how long it takes to really finesse a show. And comedy sports as sort of a product that people can buy into
Mm,
has been around for donkey's age. But comedy sports Manchester has been around for a donkey's age as well. They've been around for over 20 years. But the show keeps changing a little bit. It keeps changing in that, like, not only do we add new games, we might tinker with our format a little bit. We were lucky enough to get music added to the show. We've always had music recordings, but like live music makes a massive difference. So finding Felix as somebody
great.
who is an improvising keyboardist, what a getting somebody who will improvise music for your show, who is also an improviser because he is a talented performer beyond the keyboard. But the fact that he selflessly sits behind that keyboard and underscores our tomfoolery, what a guy.
Yeah.
What a get.
We have one, and we try to keep hold of it very tightly.
Yeah.
Uh,
Treasure them.
'Cause
Treasure
it's like,
your
oh,
accompanist.
yeah, yeah. I mean, when we used to tour Hoof, which I talked to you a little bit about, we had a band of three people who were all kind of jazz musicians, session musicians, and they could just effort, and they'd all written for theatre, so they
Yeah.
got it. They were all in various roles. They were all MDs
Oh,
for
that's
theatre.
nice.
So you just had, someone, and they could all play multiple instruments. So they would have more. There'd be more instruments and then you could shake a sticker. Doing our get in with an improv show where there shouldn't be anything. We're kind of like literally carrying cases and it's all just instruments.
That's so great. How
But
cool.
it was very, very smart. I mean, all sorts of weird and wonderful things. Oh, I found this. Can I put this? Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Appropriate, bunging in.
And what a great, because you really have to show a level of trust for each other. The musician is another improviser.
Absolutely.
Um, and if they cue you into something that actually hadn't occurred to you, that's a gift.
Yeah. it's kind of going, and they can edit in lots of different ways where they're kind of going, we've had too much of this, move on. We're changing it. It needs to move on. I mean,
Yeah, great
it's
editing
very similar
skills, absolutely.
because I now run improvise the lighting for improvised Shakespeare, and actually it made me really appreciate Mike, who used to do our lighting and stuff. And it's kind of go, because ultimately there's another player in the room as well, which is someone who's improvising your lighting with you, which can then kind of go, no, we're wiping here. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're moving
Well,
the focus on.
another that's we use so our producer also acts very much as our tech for Murder Inc. She's called Alex and she's great. She's been with us for a while now. But in venues that have lighting, she will do our lighting cues for us. But also Murder Inc.'s kind of backdrop or setting changes monthly. Typically, festival shows are different because we offer the opportunity for the guest to kind of choose from 5 settings. But like just our regular monthly shows, we change the setting
Yeah.
and we encourage our producer to bank some sound effects that are appropriate to that setting. And we say, look, this is it's your call. If we're in a haunted house setting and you want to rattle chains or do a creaky door, you're a part of the team. And if you want to throw a sound effect in there, it might catch us off guard, but it might really, really goose a scene in a
Yeah.
way that is fantastic. So we have like our little Foley artist up now, which is good.
And that's the other thing. Is like, it's so much cheaper. You can kind of get multiple samples and things like that. And all you do is bung them on a keyboard, a hotkeys, bang, away you go. I mean, we've used it where you can have the keyboards on the side, it's on a MIDI keyboard, and you just go, it's all labeled up. So you can just
Yeah.
operate from the side of the stage if you want. So
Yeah, get somebody to step in who's not currently on stage and
yeah.
you have that keep going.
Yeah. So the kind of, the kind of technology has sort of bled into improv, and I think it's only enhanced it. It's kind of
Yeah.
giving it an extra layer and just kind of going, oh, okay, let's see, let's see how we can push this a little bit.
Yeah.
We used to have someone who was an artist with a tablet when they were very early doors, and they would draw live backdrops and stuff like that.
Oh, that's cool.
Really, yeah, that was really smart.
We there's a comedy sports team. I think a lot of them do this really well, but they have somebody who is like the announcer, but also often somebody who's in the role of like creating some images that then get broadcast. So like Portland's team has a great one. Basically just a joke is made in the show. This woman is just on the backdrop drawing up an image that is that joke. And then like we're going into halftime and they display the images. You know what I mean? Like just much more interactive than it has any right to be, quite frankly. It's really good.
I
Really
mean,
good.
I've sort of got I had an idea and I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to test it out. Is like loading up a keyboard and giving it to the audience, and it's just sound effects, and it's a solo show, and it's just the audience just hit the sound effects, and the person reacts to that. So it's a silent improv. They don't know what's going to happen, but you kind of take them on a visual mimic version journey.
What a cool idea.
Yeah, I've got to lose some weight to be able to do that. But yeah, that's
You're afraid they're going to put you through the ringer. I bet you they will.
well, I know. You just imagine you give a keyboard with a load of sound effects or a load of
Yeah.
you're just going to get ruined. Yeah. Oh, because I kind of like, I'm a big fan. I really like sort of commedia. I've been a big fan of that for years, and I always kind of went, oh, I really want to see an improv, a proper improv show where they use half, commedia half mask, where
Ask.
they understand all the
Yeah.
thing. So that's kind of a long-term goal of kind of going, okay, it's going to be a wordless show, but playing those stock characters, but using the audience as they're the controller with a keyboard of some sort.
I love it. I love the sound of that.
Maybe I'll do it over the summer and just try some stuff out.
Yeah.
Um, Murder Inc. What might an audience expect if they've never seen you guys before?
So with the festival shows, which is what we're going to bring to the Liverpool Improv Festival, is they get to vote on the door. So we'll kind of generate 5 options for there to be a theme or a backdrop to the murder mystery. So completely improvised comedy murder mystery. You'll get to vote on the way in. Do you want to see Murder in the Wild West? Murder on the reality dating show, murder at IKEA. um, whatever is the most popular choice wins. We always feel like kind of uh can describe the show as like make your own murder. Because we then line up on stage knowing that this is the theme, and we will ask the audience to sort of give us the archetypes that they want us to play in the show. So not the role of like, yeah, we want that guy to be the murderer, but let's say it's murder at IKEA. They might look at my colleague Daryl and I'll say, what do you want Daryl to play at this IKEA? And they're gonna say, the manager. What do you want me to play in this couple? Half of a couple that got lost in the kitchen section. Who do you want this person to play? So they cast the sort of archetypes for us, and then we know who our characters are. They also give us some micro locations. So we get them to sort of program the settings and the characters in the murder mystery. The first half presents as a La Ronde. So as actors, we try to make sure that we are planting seeds and showing connectivity to the cast of characters, even in scenes that we're not in together. There's a connectivity with a bit of a hard focus on the victim. And then in the interval, we very quickly get them to give us, the audience that is, some motives, some theories for how it happened. We then often weave those into the second half of the show as well. We use some of our own, idea generating, but some of the really good ones or the really crap ones, because those are equally fun. Uh, we might reenact those a little bit for them. And then at the end, we will have discovered who done it. And at one sleuthing team who was correct in their estimation takes home a prize. And that prize is usually either Murder Inc. merch or tickets to an upcoming show.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So what's
Yeah.
the merch? T-shirts or
Oh, the merch is pretty good right now. I'd say we have bottle openers,
oh,
pens, tote bags, and travel coffee mugs. So not too
oh,
bad. We basically do like a merch buy, like a purchase of merch once a year and look at what the sites have on offer and see what looks like good, sturdy
yeah, yeah.
opportunity.
Well, you can murder someone with a good steel cup.
Yeah, absolutely could. Or get that wine key right into the neck.
Yeah. Um, okay, so we can kind of work towards the end of it, but I was kind of interested if you were to guest curate for LiF 2025, who would you bring uh Money's No Object to LiF 2025? What company, artists, thing would you think about? Who would be your, oh, you've got to see these people?
Well, I'd get Jill Bernard over. Um, Minnesota-based improviser, one of the best teachers I've ever had, working, the opportunity to work with. And she does a solo show. I've taken like a solo improv class from her before, but I didn't get to see because I was gigging at night. I didn't get to see her solo show, which is called Drum Machine. So I'd love to get Jill Bernard over to do Drum Machine.
Okay.
I would get Baby Wants Candy down to Liverpool. Why not? They're one of my favorite improvised musicals. I would probably also get one of my favorite comedy sports teams over from the States because one of my favorite things to do as an improviser is go back for the comedy sports jamboree every year and watch the other teams play. Because they're all dealing with the same product, but they all have different bells and whistles and different skilled players, and some have slightly different preferred games that they play. So I'd get maybe one of my fave comedy sports teams over. And then I'd who else would I get?
Well,
Uh
that's quite a lot.
yeah, that probably blows the budget,
That's a
quite
that's a
frankly.
full day already.
Yeah, let's call it there, and I'm gonna let somebody else run with the next day of programming.
Ace. Well, thank you so much for taking the time this morning on Valentine's Day. So happy
It's
Valentine's.
my pleasure. I'm wearing my soft pink Valentine's Day color.
Yay.
Happy Valentine's Day, improv lovers.
So thank you so much, and I'm really looking forward to watching Murder Inc. and you and the team, and I can't wait to kind of welcome you, and hopefully, I promise I will go now and look for that VHS copy of Burn Manhattan.
I will treat it with great care and respect and return it unharmed,
I'm
but
gonna
enjoy.
I'm gonna see if I can maybe get it burnt down onto a disc or something like that. I'm sure at the where I work at, which is the university there, I'm sure they've got a VCR that can
They
do a
gotta, they
transfer
gotta, right?
or on a key.